Then I took a smidge and applied it down there.
This one's wife. Tacky and cheesy. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Well, on Friday evening, Harry attended the Living Legends of Aviation. I think they must have misspelt the title, putting leg rather than bell in the title, which would strike me as being far more accurate for Harry. Reaction, as you'd expect, has been that of criticism. This one's wife didn't attend. More about that in a separate video. But what was the male's take on all of this? Caroline Graham actually attended the awards, and she wrote in the Mail, "This vainglorious gala felt like the popping of Harry's bubble, but it was hard not to feel just a smidgen of sympathy for him." "Oh, Harry," she writes, "how has it come to this? From a royal highness who commanded respect and affection to a celebrity trinket paraded in front of paying guests as a cheesy Hollywood awards ceremony." Well, pausing there, that is a neat summation of the position that Harry finds himself in. Whilst there have been reservations in the past about certain aspects of Harry's behaviour, for the most part, he was well liked by the public. He got on with his role within the royal family, formed a great partnership with his brother and sister-in-law. Many people were sympathetic towards him as a consequence of the loss of his mother, Diana, Princess of Wales. They liked him, the cheeky chappy party prince, who came across well as a consequence of his charitable works and his time in the army. As a combination of being a member of the royal family and the way that he had conducted himself, most people looked upon him in a favourable manner. This meant that he had considerable favour and respect from large swathes of the public. All he thereafter needed to do was continue to capitalise upon this. He would be supported, admired, liked, even loved. But then, as we all know, along came the narcissist. And so typical of so many people around the world, the millions upon millions that have been ensnared by romantic narcissists, he found that respect dissipated, the love waned, the like turned to scorn, the approval turned to ridicule, that he became as a petulant, spoilt brat who turned his back on his country and had become ostracised from his family. And yet he was unable to see any of it, for he had been subjected to the manipulative wiles of his wife and the fog of his own emotional thinking. But lo, there stands that example of an individual who had that respect and affection and now was nothing more than a celebrity trinket. Does Harry actually realise that this is where he's at? In the whole, no. He's still lost. He does, of course, recognise the instances where he's treated badly by his wife. There will be moments where he misses the United Kingdom with his friends and his family. There will be instances where he will start to think, is this the right thing? And he will start to have those regrets. But he doesn't have the totality of the insight just yet. Certainly, he doesn't understand what it is that his wife is, and how she is impacted upon him, how she has brought him low by causing him to behave in the way that he has done so. He cannot yet see that. In fullness of time, he may do so. But for now, he's blinded to it. He's blinded to why he's become such a figure of ridicule. Caroline Graham continues, "The only crown I could see at Friday's Living Legends of Aviation Gala to honour the Duke of Sussex was one made from plastic and rhinestones, and perched atop the elaborately coiffured head of Miss California. And the only other royal present was a German who goes by the ridiculous name of Prince Mario Max Schomburg-Lippe, though his right to use that title is hotly disputed, who once appeared in a saucy internet series called Travel Boobs. Given such a distinctly D-list gathering, no wonder the audience was abuzz as they awaited their guest of honour to arrive, although his faded royal stardust would not be enough to save the deeply unimpressive night. Organisers had promised that the Duke would attend with his wife, this one's wife, in what had been billed as the couple's first joint Hollywood red carpet appearance, but a PR lackey suddenly announced that Harry, 39, would be solo, and that he had just snuck in through a back entrance. With his father about to undergo a prostate procedure and his sister-in-law Kate, to whom he was once so close, in hospital for treatment for an abdominal problem, the Harry of old would surely have taken such an opportunity to publicly wish them both good health. Of course, he may have done so in private, but the omission here was as painful as a waft's sting. Instead, here was a man who remains fifth in line to the throne, despite Megxit 4 years ago, mingling with some of Hollywood's most frivolous personalities, and being garlanded by sycophants with yet another meaningless bauble at a £1,100 a head event that was so lacklustre that one elderly attendee admitted he slept through most of it. A fellow guest told me, "We all assumed Harry would say something kind about his father and Kate before going into his acceptance speech, but he didn't say a word about them, which was weird." Now, there are two factors behind that. The first is that he wouldn't want to do so because his wife disapproves and he's still enthralled to her. The second, which I see as more likely, is that he didn't do so because he's become increasingly selfish as a consequence of the amount of time that he spent with his wife. In effect, her devaluing behaviour of him has reduced his emotional empathy for others, causing him to behave selfishly. Before dinner, Harry posed for a selfie with Prince Mario Max, whose website boasts connections stretching back to William of Orange, which would make him a very, very distant cousin of the British royals. But his royal connections have been described as a beautiful illusion, and are disputed by the family, who accuse him of using the title to make money, bringing the name into disrepute. Speaking about meeting Harry, Mario Max told the Mail on Sunday, "We had a personal conversation and he was fabulous, very humble, very sweet. It filled me with joy." Questions of whether the Duke deserved to be called a living legend of aviation had been raised before the bash. Harry's award citation described him as a humanitarian, military veteran, mental wellness advocate, and environmentalist, adding, "He has dedicated his life to causes he is passionate about and that bring about permanent change." Now, there has been a suggestion from some quarters that actually the award was offered first to Prince William, but he declined it, and therefore Harry has received sloppy seconds, maybe not for the first time. While the Duke served in the military for 10 years, rising to the rank of captain and completing 2 tours of Afghanistan, a former head of the Royal Navy had poured scorn on the accolade. Lord Alan West said, "He is not a living legend of aviation. To suggest he is pathetic. It makes the whole thing seem a bit of a nonsense." And Colonel Richard Kemp, a retired British Army officer, said the ceremony was about celebrities massaging each other's egos. In effect, accepting an award of this nature stands against the principles that Harry once was expected to adhere to as being a member of the army. Accepting his award, Harry spoke of his pride in his military career, And as he did, I found it impossible to avoid thinking that perhaps it might finally be dawning on Harry that trashing his family for Netflix's millions and leaving behind a life of service in the United Kingdom for a career, pandering to the whims of rich Americans, might have been too high a price to pay. When he spoke about his old life, it felt meaningful and honest in a way that so many of his Hollywood psychobabble interviews and his kamikaze memoir, Spare, have not. It's noteworthy, of course, that he's speaking without the direct influence of his wife. And also, from the pictures that one can see of his attendance at the event, her absence seems, as always, to leave him looking much happier. Harry stated, "For me, flying has been a transcendent experience, a close encounter with magic, an invitation to both protect freedom and to feel free, and funny enough, an opportunity to ground oneself without actually being grounded." He spoke movingly of his former career, saying, "I had respect for the Apache in a hover and was in awe of it flying at night. So many moments as a pilot where you feel like you're walking on air. And throughout each flight during my military career, the one constant was always trust. Trust in the aircraft, trust in my fellow comrades, trust in my many mentors, and above all else, trust in myself. Flying taught me the power of discipline, the power of patience, and beyond that, the power of trusting your gut." Well, those traits certainly haven't been applicable with regard to his interactions with his wife. These emotive words triggered an obligatory standing ovation from the audience, which included Amazon billionaire Jeff Bezos and his fiancée Lauren Sanchez, who was also being hailed as a living legend for her work as a helicopter pilot who runs a company offering aerial filming. One guest commented that Harry might be lining up Bezos, the world's third richest man, for when the £63 million deal he and this one's wife have with Netflix expires next year. It was a valid point, as the couple have yet to prove themselves properly in Hollywood, with their efforts attracting no little ridicule. It then talks about the podcast deal failing and South Park taking the piss out of them, etc. In many ways, this vainglorious gala felt like the popping of Harry's bubble, but it was hard not to feel a smidgen of sympathy. During my 3 decades working as a journalist in Hollywood, I've been to scores of A-list events, including nearly every Oscars ceremony, but Friday's event was a low-rent shambles. Apart from Ms. Sanchez, none of the big names, including John Travolta and Morgan Freeman, walked the red carpet. Other promised guests, including musician Kenny G, failed to show. Artist Mimi Stewart showed off a gaudy yellow portrait of Harry in his Apache cockpit. "He has a magnificent big helmet," she said, causing a ripple of awkward giggles in the crowd. It must be said, though, many were delighted by the Duke of Sussex's appearance. Businessman Shane Lundgren, 62, said it's fantastic to have someone with his level of celebrity being part of something like this. Fellow guest Nita Epps said, "He's been outstanding in his service in Afghanistan. It's wonderful he's being honoured." And Miss California, Tiana Clark, agreed, "There's a lot of love for Harry here." As Harry left the way he arrived, slipping out of the back entrance into a waiting Range Rover, I was left pondering if this event was an indication of what the future holds for him. Will he be reduced to giving speeches alongside the likes of Mario Max over gala chicken dinners to support his £11 million Monty Shitshow mansion and estimated £1.6 million a year security bill? For his sake, I sincerely hope not. A somewhat sympathetic account of Harry's attendance, but it demonstrates again how his status has fallen. And this has only ever been since the involvement of this one's wife, demonstrating once again how the narcissist will enter your life, take what they need, and then leave you in a poor position thereafter. What about below the line? What are people's reactions to his attendance at this event? Yoma writes, "There is no sympathy for him." One wise responds, "He is an imbecile." Whatevs in Australia writes, "Harry is lying in the bed he made for himself. Very simply, being a prince made him believe that he was a superior human with the ability to quickly and easily conquer everything. His wife doubled down on that belief. The outcome is just the fact that it turns out that he and his wife are super mega average in everything they do. Pauline Furniville. Everyone knows he does not deserve it. AJGR. I'd feel sympathy at his downfall, except I remember the Lion King premiere when he dodged the Veterans' Day. Set us free. I have no sympathy for this person whatsoever. He has turned his back on everyone and everything that gave him the privileges that he continues to enjoy. Worse still, he has treated his country and his family with utter contempt. Stanley's tool. Only place Harry as a legend is in his own mind. Bored possum, tacky, and embarrassing. K. Harry left the royal family to be a royal eye candy at some faux aviation awards event alongside a billionaire's fiancée and a famous Scientologist. Pathetic. It wouldn't surprise me, of course, if John Travolta was seeking to recruit Harry into Scientology and has his eye on what little money he has left. The comments are all in that vein. Criticism of Harry, demonstrating once again that when the narcissist enters your life, not only will you be abused, but you will be pulled down the ladder, that you will lose friends, that you will lose status, that you will lose the approval of individuals as a consequence of your own behaviours influenced by that narcissist and the decisions that you make. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.